Hey everybody. Welcome. So we're gonna talk here today, a little bit shorter today. I'm gonna try to keep it about a half hour. I have a meeting I need to go to. And I really just wanna give you some important highlights really about divorce and that lingering divorce, anger and resentment and that kind of thing. And actually just take your questions if you have them. So first thing I wanna just say is hi and welcome. If you haven't been here before, I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm Barb Beck. My company is Revolutionary Love. I've been a relationship coach for over 20 some years, and I'm doing these live stream teachings to try to get some help out there that doesn't seem to be out there. Just talking and kind of going, deep, taking a deep dive into some of these topics, everything from dating, all the way through relating to marriage, to breakups and divorce. And today we're going to talk about, a piece of it that centers around divorce. So let me just say hi to a few people. I also just want to mention, this has been a really tough week for me this last week. I posted some things about some really heavy melancholy that I was in, and I just appreciate so much all of you just being so supportive, nobody trying to fix anything, everybody just saying thanks for sharing that. Gives me permission to understand that I can feel anything I need to feel and go through whatever I need to go through. Started feeling some of it kind of lightening up yesterday. Don't feel 100% today, but was really looking forward to doing this live stream. So that'll be nice for me. Anytime I can coach my clients or sit with them, do these live streams, it always actually feels really good to me. So thank you for all your support. And, I'm sure the weather's not helping. It's gray, it's rainy, it's ugh. So anyway, let me say hi to some of you. Hi, Steve. How are you doing? Hi, Rich. Nice that you're here. So I'm going to jump in pretty quick. What I would love, though, is if you do have a question and you haven't sent it to me ahead of time, if you can put it here, I'm going to try to take a look before I jump off today. If not, and if I don't answer something or you have something that you'd prefer not to post and you'd like to send it to me and ask me a question, you can always do that. My email is barb@coachbeck.com. Just keep it kind of short, think through what you're asking me and send that to me, and I'm always happy to answer your questions, okay? Hi, Maureen. How are you? So, let me jump in. Here's the notes I took. What I'm going to talk about today. Hi, Joanna. How are you? I'm going to talk really quickly today then about three things. Why? Why do people really get stuck in divorce or breakup anger? Because there's some real reasons. What we need to do first, if we realize that we're stuck in that. Thanks, Maureen. I'm glad you're saying it's a good topic. So why do we get stuck? I'm going to talk about that real quick. What do we do first? What if we say, yep, this is me. It's been 2 years and I can tell that I'm still really stuck or longer or whatever, or just, give me the tools that once I go through this grief and loss process, give me some of the tools that I can start to use, at least so that I have a plan in mind, okay? And then I'm going to talk about if you're the one who's kind of on the receiving end of an ex who's really stuck in anger or resentment or whatever, what are the kind of 4 or 5 best things to make sure that you do or don't do? Let's talk about that really quick. And just kind of an overall mindset, okay? So let me say hi one more time. Hi, Emily. How are you? So glad all of you are here. And again, for any of you who are just jumped on, if you have not sent me a question and would like to, or would like to do it privately, and not put it here, you're welcome to do that. My email is barb@coachbeck.com. Okay, let's just jump in. So why do people get stuck in divorce anger? Actually, let me back up a minute. What I said to you when I posted this was that we had something personal go on that brought this topic back up. And so let me just address that really quick. Have made a promise to myself, my family, and friends that I will never use names or that kind of thing when I'm talking about something. But here's the deal. I am a relationship coach. Hi, Annika. And everything that I go through in my life informs my work. I can't separate that out. So while my commitment to myself and to people in my life is to be very respectful, I don't name names, I don't do that kind of thing. I love all of you, and it's very, very important to me to get teachings and information and tools and skills and insights out there into the world. And I'm going to do that by being honest and telling truths about things that are going on. Annika said, thanks for being real. Thank you. And so, you know what? I will be courteous. I will not name names, but as Brian and I talked about before, when we had a live stream together, when he was talking about his experience of a breakup in a marriage and going through a betrayal and that kind of thing, it's not to gossip. It's not to sit here and secretly have a way that I can trash his ex or my ex or somebody I've been with or name names or talk crap about somebody. That is not the point. And I'm also not worried about talking about what is going on in my life or our marriage or anything. Like when I talked about our sex life before, I will be respectful. I will always ask my husband. I've asked him if it's all right for me to just mention this. And he's like, yes, absolutely. If it helps anyone, let's talk about it. So I've made it sound like it's a big deal. It's not. All that happened was, I don't even know, a week ago or something, is, we had a very weird exchange, he did, with his former. And, towards the end of it, as he just kind of stayed calm and responded in these texts, came kind of this frustration and blame and anger and criticisms and little texts saying, you're mean and, and it's just not true. And he's not engaging. But it never feels good. And it doesn't feel good to be lectured by an ex, does it? It doesn't feel good to be lectured by anybody, but also to have somebody tell you, what they think of you, what they think you're doing, how they think you're not a great person. What is the point of that? In fact, I just put on a Facebook post not too long ago, you guys, that post about giving advice. We can apply it right here to exes. Guess what? Let me just be, Annika, really real about this and really blunt, okay? If you're not with someone anymore, number one, during that marriage or relationship, I hope that you weren't using blame and criticism as the way to communicate anyway. If you're not with that person anymore, you don't have the right to come in and decide to tell them over and over through a text, a message, a letter or whatever, your opinion about them or what they're doing or anything like that. That you don't have that right. And in a relationship, that's not how we communicate anyway. We certainly don't need to do that when somebody's not in our life anymore. And that's usually a sign, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, it's usually a sign that the emotional connection that we have felt with somebody, certainly we have felt that if we've been with somebody for many years in a marriage, or quite a few years dating or that kind of thing. You hear me talk all the time about the emotional connection, that if it's breaking down, that's what we're working on to build back if we're trying to strengthen a relationship. So think about this. If we're trying to undo a relationship, if we're trying to go through a breakup, if we're trying to go through a divorce and truly let go, one of the things that we're trying to do is let go of the emotional relationship, the emotional connection. That has nothing to do with caring or kindness or civility. It has to do with that bond that we feel with someone, which many times gets confused with feeling that you have the right to stay involved in someone's life. Okay, was that blunt enough? So that's kind of what Brian just went through. And after that, we were sitting talking again about where in the world does that lingering resentment and anger come from? Because he doesn't have it. I don't have it, with my exes. And we were talking about just in general, like, with her, where does that come from? Why does that stay present and at the forefront? And why did these little comments and digs need to be made? And then I was talking about with my clients how often I'm working with them to help them really get past a breakup, a painful divorce, an affair, a betrayal, whatever it is, and help them go through the process, but really move to the other side so that they're letting go of this anger and resentment and moving forward in their life. Okay, so that's kind of how all this came up. Is we just kind of out of the blue, had this experience ourselves. Brian was talking to me about it as he was responding to her, and he was just left saying, what in the world? Why is there, actually what he said is, when she's the one who stepped out of the marriage and when she's the one who asked for the divorce, why is she now 7+ years later in a place of anger still and talking to me in that way? And so that's how it came up. And so I want to address that because it actually is really common. So here are some of the reasons. I'm just going to look there. I took some notes. Some of the reasons that we really get stuck after a breakup, and there's been quite a while that's gone by, and you can feel you're still stuck in anger and resentment. There are several really common reasons. One is that it is simply easier to blame your partner for all the things that you think they've done or didn't do or caused the breakup or whatever it was, instead of owning your part in that blame too. It's just simply easier. That's human nature. And the longer that we do something, right, the easier it is to keep doing something. It becomes a habit. It's a pattern that's laid down. So some of it's not complicated. It's simply that it's easier for us to stay in kind of a negative mindset and go into blame than to stop ourselves and go, okay, well, yeah, he did that, and I did these things that contributed too. It's just easier to stay focused on the other person and go into blame and criticism. So one, we just want to be aware. Have we laid down a habit or a pattern that we just simply need to be aware of and break? Some of these things aren't complicated, okay? Another reason is when we go through a divorce, we go through a grief process, just like any other kind of loss. So if we're going through this process and we get stuck in any place along it, but especially if we get stuck in the loss part of that, feeling a real heaviness, a sadness around the loss, not just the loss of this partner, but when we're divorcing, it means we're feeling a loss of the dream. We're feeling a loss of the hope that we had to have a great, long-lasting marriage. We're feeling a loss of, things that we were going to do, the vision that we had. Some of us, we're feeling a loss of, the retirement years that we were looking at and plans that we had. We're feeling a loss that if we have kids, when we go to these kids' graduations or weddings or whatever, that we're not going now as their parents. We're not going as a married couple. We feel that loss. There's all kinds of loss that comes up with through a divorce. Let me look and see what Johanna's saying. What really helped me is to check with myself if I was divorced from my ex or divorced to my ex. Wow, that's a great question, Johanna. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. And that's making me think of something else I'm going to say a little bit later. So thank you for that. So the other thing is stuck in the process. The process of grief and loss is a really important one to go through. It's what I was talking about before about not doing a spiritual bypass. We don't want to go through a breakup and go, okay, it's all good, I'm fine. And every time you feel something in that process of anger, which is part of the process, loss, which is part of the process, grief, which is part of the process, devastation, being stunned, kind of frozen, all of these things that have to do with a letting go process. One of the things that happens in divorces is people will get stuck in the loss because it feels so heavy and so sad. Now, people will say, well, what does that have to do with anger or resentment? That takes me to the next reason that people get stuck in anger. we will flip that loss, those feelings of sadness and loss and heaviness and victimhood into anger. Why? Because it feels way more empowering to feel anger at someone than to experience in our bodies hurt. It feels way more empowering to feel angry at your ex than to be able to sit and feel grief and loss and sadness that the marriage that you thought you were going to be in for the rest of your life is coming to an end, or you just signed the divorce papers. I mean, it makes me sad just to say that because I remember going through that. So those two things, I've just kind of put those together. The getting stuck in loss and kind of getting into a victim mindset and wallowing in that sadness and turning it into anger because those feelings feel so bad to us, and the anger at least feels somewhat empowering. It gives us a little bit of an adrenaline rush, and if we lash out at our ex, it actually, truth be told, feels good for a moment. We've all been there. It actually, when you feel hurt or frustrated or sad and you turn it into anger and you write that little shitty little text, or you make that crummy little comment, or you say that little thing on a voicemail or whatever, you're trying to relieve your own pain. And for a moment it works. It's an unhealthy coping skill, but it's a coping skill. And in my experience, for a moment it works. It feels good for a second. You feel a little bit of a relief. You're like, okay, that feels good. And then really quickly after that, that whole loops and that cycle starts again. Whether you can admit it or not, unconsciously, it feels kind of bad that you did that. Then you have to start telling yourself again why it was okay that you did that. To tell yourself that it's okay that you did that, you have to run through your stories again. Now you have to run through the story of what this person, your ex, did that has made you so angry. Now we've got you fueled up again. Do you see that cycle? It's not a pretty one, you guys. And it's one that if I'm talking to you and you're the person who's been stuck in resentment or anger or irritability or frustration, I want you to put your hand right now on your heart, and I want you to say, this is me, I'm here, and I'm going to start forgiving myself, which means I'm opening the door to being able to let myself off the hook and then let my former partner off the hook too. And that's one of the other reasons that we get stuck. It's one of the uglier ones that I'm going to share with you right now. A lot of times we get stuck in resentment and anger and blame and criticism because it actually feels kind of good to play that victim card. And you say, no, it doesn't feel good. It feels horrible. Why would you say that? Because we get to be the martyr then. We get to be the one with the story that says, oh man, you don't know what I've been through. You don't know what he did to me. You don't know what she did to me. You don't know what it's been like to go through, finding out that my wife had an affair and then wanted a divorce. You don't know what it was like being married to him all those years. You don't know what it was like. We get to have a story, and we get to play a victim or a martyr. There's something that we get out of it when we get stuck in this place. And the other thing that we get out of being stuck in that place is we don't actually have to feel all of these feelings and let them pass through us so that we can then accept, key word here, accept, which is what's not happening if you're in resentment and anger, so that we can accept that this breakup has happened. This divorce is happening or has happened, or we're a year into the divorce. When we stay in anger or resentment, we don't have to go into acceptance. And that sounds simple, but it's really true. When we move into acceptance, we realize that we don't have control of a lot of things, and we may or may not have had any control over this breakup or divorce. Sometimes we're the one who wanted it. Sometimes we're the one who was let go of. But when we move into acceptance, that helps us turn over here and look at our own future, look at our own lives, and start to co-create with this big, beautiful universe what we really want in our lives. And you know what? That can be scary. That can especially be scary if you have sat in a marriage for quite a few years and leaned heavily on your partner, or leaned heavily on the emotional connection with a partner, or leaned heavily on your planning and your future and your happiness being, brought to you, or those needs filled by your partner. Which is why I'm saying to all of you here, for all my singles that are here, I see some of you here, please make sure that you understand that if you go into a long-term committed relationship or a marriage, it is not your partner's responsibility to fill all of your needs or meet all of your needs for happiness. It's yours. So if you remain responsible for yourself and come together as two really beautiful individuals, connecting in that way and bringing rich, full lives to each other, then nobody is leaning too heavily on the other person. I'm not saying, and so if you get divorced, I'm just saying this is really what happens a lot. And the reason that a lot of times people are not able to unhook after a divorce. They emotionally remain connected because it's been a habit, because it felt good to feel like they had someone that loved them, someone in their life, someone that they were connected to. And they don't want to think about truly letting go and putting their arms around their own lives. And that's the work that I do all the time with people, you guys, is helping people get moved into a new mindset of, I'm not a victim here. There's nothing that's happened to me here. I don't need to sit and run my stories of blame and criticism, even if I've been through something really painful. I am in charge of my life. I will stand in my authentic power, and I will create the life that I want. If I need to accept some things that have happened in my life that have felt painful to me, then I will damn well accept them. I am resilient. I will accept them. And I will let everyone off the hook. I will let me off the hook. I will let my former off the hook. I don't need to continue to trash someone to try to make me look better, or smarter, or healthier, or more conscious, or more anything. I don't need to continually run a story and put someone else down to try to make myself look or feel better. Okay, which takes me to the second group here that I want to talk about. What do we do? Okay, so whether you're in this and stuck, or whether you're single and you're like, yeah, I want to know what to do if I ever go through a breakup or whatever. After feeling it all, you know you've heard me say this over and over and over. We feel it all first. We don't do a spiritual bypass. We don't rush over here and go, it's all good. We feel it all first, and you heard me just discussing divorce or a breakup is a process to go through. Anger, grief, loss, all of it. We feel it and we go through it. But what do we do after that? That's the work that I do all of the time, you guys. You've heard me say it here so many times. I know you could repeat it after me. What's the work that we do? Yes, the personal foundation work. That's the place we go. After we're feeling everything, after we're starting to really change our mindset and thinking, after we're letting go of anything that we've been feeling that is not adding to our joy and happiness, after we're committing to intentionally forgiving ourselves and our partner, we go straight to that personal foundation work. I know you guys can repeat it after me. Let me just go through it one more time. We start with our personal honor code. You sit down with a piece of paper and you list out who you are going to be and how you are going to show up. Okay? Of course it applies to your ex, you guys. It applies to everyone. This is not my list of my personal honor code and how I'm going to show up in the world, except not with my ex who I'm pissed at, or not with this person that I don't agree with everyone. And after that, boundaries. Clear, swift, firm boundaries. You make your list of boundaries. I will no longer say yes to things that I don't want to say yes to. I will no longer tolerate toxic behavior. I will calmly and with a calm tone in my voice set boundaries where I need to set boundaries. And letting go of the need for approval or validation from anybody else. Okay? So can you see how this works beautifully? We're in a place of grief, loss, anger, resentment from a breakup, from a divorce, and we're finding that we're stuck in it. We realize that we are, and we start to do real intentional work to sit down and see where we're stuck. You know, write it if you need to. Where am I stuck? Acknowledge that you're stuck. Here's where I'm stuck. Here's what I'm having trouble getting over. Reframe it. Okay, well, here's what I'm feeling about my ex, you know, or the fear of moving on, or the loss in this divorce. Let me reframe that. You know what this gives me an opportunity for? This gives me an opportunity to create an amazing life for myself. This gives me an opportunity to really strengthen myself and build my resilience. This gives me an opportunity. You guys, there are a million things to reframe here. And look at what the opportunity is for you. And then you jump into the personal foundation work. Personal honor code, boundaries, letting go of the need for approval. At that point, okay, we're looking at you starting to have your feet back under you, a solid foundation under you, so that when you are just moving through your day, or you've got a graduation coming up and you realize, wow, in 2 months I'm going to be sitting there, you know, with my ex down, you know, a few seats away, or we're going to be dealing with this because we need to have a conversation about child support and whether it continues if they're going to college. These are things we've had to do. Or, you know, we're throwing a engagement party, whatever is coming up that you say, wow, we're going to need to figure this out. When you feel those little tinges, little trigger, a little this, what are you automatically turning to? Hopefully what you look at every morning in your morning meditation, your personal honor code, your personal standards. See how simple this is? May not be easy, but you see how simple it is? And you look and you say to yourself, when you would like to make that crappy little comment or send that text or say, I think you look and you've read your personal honor code that morning and you've said, this is how I'm committed to showing up in the world. This is the man or woman that I said I want to be with everyone. Of course that includes my former spouse. Let me just say something here. I have been in this place. I was a single mom of a teenage boy for quite a few years. He did not have a great connection with his father, and then they were a zillion miles apart. There was definitely anger and resentment on both of our parts. I think both of us had a really good, firm story about what happened. I don't know about him, but I did my work. I did my work for me because I didn't want to feel like shit. I did my work for me because I didn't want to stay stuck in anger or resentment. But man, here was the biggest one. I did my work for me because I love my son Seth more than anything in the world. If any of you have kids, you know the love you have for your kids. And I never wanted to see the look on his face if I put his father down, made a snarky comment about his dad in front of him, acted as if his father was not a good man, made, sarcastic comments about his dad, because guess what, you guys? That anger and resentment that you surround your kids with hurts them, because you know what? They are connected to both parents. They feel deeply that they are a part of both parents. And so if you're saying this parent is a bad person, I don't like this parent, this parent is not good, and you're putting that parent down, you are, to them in their own mind and heart, putting them down. It's proven. Is that what you want to do to your child? Is every time you say or act, or at least have your energy or your tone or your body language be negative about their other parent, do you want to watch it hurt them? Do you want to know that you're hurting their heart? Oh my God, I was like, I will never do this to Seth, ever. And so it required me to really do the deep, deep dive of letting go of my anger, focusing intentionally all the time on what I could remember that was positive and good about his dad. If I needed to tell the truth, like really tell the truth about something that wasn't okay, a few times during our divorce, we had some things that went on where I had to say, oh my God, okay, that's not okay, that's not going to happen anymore. I would simply say it clearly, like I was stating the facts. That thing that your father did or said or whatever, Seth, that's not okay. Here's what he may or may not have meant. I don't know. You will have to ask him. He's not a bad person, but that thing is not okay. I would make sure I said those things at the same time. This is not okay. This behavior, this action, this thing that was said, whatever, is not okay. It's not healthy. It's not good. It's not fine with me. I am not saying your father is a bad person. So separating out that behavior, okay? I did that a lot. And what I did was bend over backwards to help my son and his father stay connected. Through tough times, through anger, through sometimes not so nice emails I got from him, some different things going on. And again, I'm not here trying to use this video to talk about a former in a negative way. I'm trying to tell you something honest here of my own experience. There was a period we went through where he was bitter and angry and had a right to be a lot about things, but I would get things that I could have gotten very reactive to. And I just practiced taking a pause, a deep breath, and remembering my personal honor code, who I wanted to be, and showing up in a way that I could feel good about myself, of being someone of character and showing up with grace. And in the long run, it paid off. It paid off because I felt good about myself. It paid off because Seth didn't feel like he had to be angry at his dad to be close to me, which is a lot of times what parents are doing. It felt great to watch him be connected to his dad and see the look on his face when I would say, that's awesome. How cool that you guys are do that. Or when I would do something like offer to pay for a ticket for his dad to fly out for a graduation or an event or something. Even when he did not accept those invitations, the look on Seth's face was worth everything to me, to be that kind of person. And in the end, we've all just spent time together at weddings, had a great time. It's so worth it for you to decide who you want to be. Let me just end this with what to do if you are somebody who's on the receiving end of a former spouse who's showing up with anger or resentment. If you're done and you know that you feel more like indifference, which is a great sign. If you're feeling, really loving and you want your ex back, or super, super angry, it means that you've got an emotional connection there that you need to sever and work on. So, if you're feeling just a indifference, glad we had what we had, pretty happy that we're not in this relationship anymore, that's healthy and that's good. That's how you can then just move into just being, kind. If you're on the receiving end and you're not sure how to handle, some of these texts like we got, or some of these comments or emails, or, a nasty letter, or somebody trying to sabotage something, I will say that these are probably the steps to try to write down and remember. Maybe make a note in your journal about these. The first thing to do is always take a pause and just remain calm. Remain calm. Don't respond when you can't remain calm. And respond in a way, think to yourself, where you're saying, just the facts, ma'am. So if somebody's sending something that's got some snarky comments and things with it or whatever, but they are asking something, take a deep breath and respond calmly with just the facts. Like, just answer the question, or just say, I'm not sure what you're asking that for, or tell me more about what you need, or could you please give me some information about that? Just state it as if you're saying just the facts. Either I need them or here's the answer. Even if they've added in all kinds of things around it, be the bigger person and let that go, okay? If you can throw in an acknowledgement, any kind of acknowledgement, that can be helpful. I don't mean, excuse my language, I don't mean kiss their ass or try to be people pleaser or try to dance around them so they don't get upset. You don't need to do any of that. That's what your boundaries are for. But if you can send an acknowledgement in that, just the facts, ma'am, sometimes that can be helpful. If they're trying to change visitation schedules or whatever and it's frustrating, they're getting frustrated with you and blah, 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 you can send back just the facts and say, I can imagine that this is getting frustrating to try to go back and forth and work this out. How does this sound? Shall we just try this? Because sometimes just that acknowledgement will help calm somebody down. To just be able to basically say, I'm hearing you, or I'm understanding something you're going through, can help calm things down. The other is making sure that you stay with firm boundaries. There is absolutely no need for you to tolerate disrespectful behavior, nasty comments that are being texted. You can shut that down quickly. You give the facts if you need to, but if you've got an ex, and especially if at this point, if you don't have kids involved, or you don't have kids involved anymore, or you've got, your kids are now young adults who are of the age of 18 or above, and you don't need to deal with this, it's a privilege to have your ex be able to still talk to you in a nice way. Don't abuse it. And so if you are on the receiving end of somebody thinking that they can just talk to you in this way, you have every right to set firm boundaries and set them quickly. Okay? And the last will be, obviously, keep your kids out of it and focus on good self-care. If you're on the receiving end of a former who's not getting over this kind of stuff, make sure that you're going through that list that I just gave you, but make absolutely sure that you're taking really good care of yourself. It can be frustrating to get those things. Make sure that you're taking nice long walks. Make sure that you're sitting and doing some more clearing and releasing yourself if you got caught in some frustration. Make sure that you're loving yourself, caring for yourself, and speaking to yourself in a kind way about who you are and the relationships that you've had. And that, your intention is to be a kind, loving person in the world. Make sure that you are taking really good care of yourself, okay? I hope this has been helpful. And again, if you have any specific questions that you want to ask me about this and you'd rather send it privately to me, send it to barb@coachbeck.com and I'll send an answer back to you, okay? All right. So, what we're saying here, life's too short, you guys. Whether you're the one stuck in anger or resentment after a divorce, whether you're one who's still on the receiving end of some anger or resentment from a former spouse, let's do everything we can to just hold to our own personal honor codes, show up really well, set boundaries where needed, and know that by us doing that, by us modeling really great behavior, it can have an incredible positive influence, not only on people in general in our lives, but amazingly, many times on our former spouses. Okay? Many blessings to you.